Want to get an update from Con Edison this morning. The company provides electric service to New York City, most of Westchester County. On the CNBC Newsline this morning is Alfonso Quiroz, spokesperson for Con Ed. Alfonso, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Some of the statistics here that we're looking at for most of the East Coast, granted, are pretty astounding. 10 million people potentially without power. Does that make sense? And is there anything in at least your memory to compare this to?
Well, it certainly is a possibility. I mean, we are really watching this storm very, very closely, and we're really concerned, especially the low-lying areas in Brooklyn and in Queens, but especially in lower Manhattan where Wall Street is located. We're really taking a very close look at how high the water comes, and we're watching it very, very closely.
Is there an over-under in terms of storm surge that dictates whether or not you go into full crisis mode versus crisis mode light?
Well, I don't know if we would refer to it as that, but we number one have about 700 external contractors, mutual aid crews, and our 14,000 employees who are really working around the clock right now. So we're all hands on deck at this point. But what we do is that we have what's called storm riders, and they are either a camera or a person who's watching how high the levels of the flooding gets in parts of lower Manhattan, say, for example. And if the water gets to a certain level, we will shut down some equipment down there preemptively because it makes it easier to restore once the water is gone. If, for example, we let it go, it would just burn out and then it would be much longer to restore.
Alfonso, Jim Cramer, how are you?
I'm doing well, Jim. How about yourself?
Oh, fine, thank you. Now, all weekend I happened to be on Interstate 80, Interstate 78. I saw huge convoys of trucks coming from southern areas, obviously where it looks like they might be spared. What do you do with those people? And it may not be Con Ed, but what's the protocol? Because they're not union, they're not part of the grid. What do you use them for?
Well, we oftentimes have mutual aid crews come in to help us out, as are many other states in this area, and oftentimes we are mutual aid crews to areas in other parts of the country where that may need help. What mutual aid is basically is that utility crews will come in, we'll stage them at a location, and once the storm is over, or once it's starting to end, we will send our crews out along with the mutual aid crews to help make restoration. So those folks will help us in either removing tree debris or making the connections for our overhead wires, or they'll be going into our facilities underground to help restore customers.
Alfonso, Con Ed has moved aggressively, perhaps more than anyone else in the country, into natural gas. Are pipelines at risk here from this kind of storm?
Well, everything's at risk at this point. You have to remember that all of this utility and all of our infrastructure is underground, and water getting involved in any of this, whether it's electric, steam, or gas, could be a very deadly combination.
They always say if it's not the wind, it's the rain, and certainly in your case, Con Ed is not immune, even though a lot of this stuff is not on a pole somewhere. Alfonso, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Alfonso Quiroz joining us from Con Ed.